Hi, and welcome to Whole Soul School and Foundation's Good Vibes Broadcasting, and specifically Mind, Body, Spirit Fitness. I'm Marie Mohler, and I'm an author, intuitive, and a messenger of the Rising Hero's Journey. And I'm back again today with Jonathan William. Thank you for joining me, Jonathan. We're going to explore some things today. So much is going on in people's lives today. I think there's a sense of anticipation for some people. There's a sense of imminent change we're all going through. A lot of things are shifting in people's lives. And it's when we're looking for skills and tools and things to walk with us in that journey, a lot of people we discount or we don't even pay attention because we aren't even really taught to pay attention to the breath, right? Something as vital as nourishing breathing. Right. And as I was getting ready for this conversation today, I was feeling how, and I've done this myself, when we're stressed or shocked or overwhelmed, or there's a trigger in our life, sometimes we find that we even like hold our breath, right? We're not even breathing properly. And we're, as a society, as a humanity, these tools aren't given to us. I don't remember in kindergarten, like my teacher focusing on that, on like the concept of breathing and showing up for our day in this grounded, balanced way. It's something that many people later on, when they've gone through some challenges, they go to workshops or they hear this is something that can help you, but it's not something that we're schooled in and that's modeled for us. And I think you and I can be messengers of these lessons and this energy and these tools. And so I feel like for Mind, Body, Spirit Fitness for the month of November 2021, but this is really a timeless energy, conscious breathing. I know you start out your book, which we've referenced in the last podcast, Pyramid of Presence. This is Jonathan Williams' amazing book. It's so like stock full of amazing insights and tools to walk in the journey. And one of the first things you start talking about is the breath. And I thought maybe I could just read a quote from the book, and that might lead us into some of what we're going to talk about today. You talk about spirit, breath, and the body. And you say the breath of life animates our form. Our physical forms are gifts of love and must be treated with the utmost respect, with honor and gratitude for allowing us the ability to express and experience life through them. And I think it is, you say, focusing on our breath is a vital way in which we can connect with some of the larger ways in which God works within our lives. And that's bringing a spirituality element into the conversation. That's not everybody's language of people listening to this podcast, but I think we can all, if someone's listening to this today, there's an awareness that there is an energy in the universe. They're tapping into something more. And that's the first step. And I know when I was tapping into something more, and I was beginning to, you might call it meditate, but it was more of my intuitive connection. And my life was a little chaotic at the time. I was learning about the breath, and I was learning that breathing in this more conscious way, I felt how nourishing it was. And for just the moments that I would give my attention to that and I would focus there, I stepped out of kind of linear time. I stepped out of what was so stressful and swirling in my life. And maybe we could start there, just have you share a little bit more what's in your heart to say about the breath, just to start us off. And then, I know there's some things we both want to talk about, breathing and conscious breathing, but it's such a vital thing. We're breathing all day long, and you can breathe unconsciously or you can breathe consciously, right? And it's all about where we put our attention and our focus as to whether we're receiving the benefits of the breath the way in a living universe it's really designed to be. So welcome and thank you. And maybe
it's awesome to be back. I look forward to these conversations so much. I do believe that the breath is so crucial to stepping into your power as a creator and navigating your life in a conscious way. It's just like core, fundamental, the breath. The breath of life animates our body. And when we connect with the breath, and when we're grateful for being in the body and breathing and having this life force flow through us, it's just an amazing thing when you can bridge, I say, spirit, breath, and the body. Spirit and the body are not separate, they're together, they're whole. So it's like your breath is a bridge between spirit and the body. And when we talk about ascension, we talk about, raising our consciousness, we never want to separate ourselves from the body, because it's a holistic approach. It's a holistic, between the spirit and the body, it's one unit. And we always want to come back to our body and honor our body and be in the body, embody. We really want to feel our amazing consciousness, our amazing, what's called the I am presence. We want to connect with the I am consciousness that knows the truth of who we are, and experience that macrocosm in the microcosm of the body. That is what true ascension is bringing that awareness, bringing that consciousness, embody here and now, and using your body to bring forward creative gifts. Whether you're a writer, you're a speaker, you're a healer, you're an artist, you're using your body, you're using your hands, you're using your speech, your mouth, you're using everything to bring forward this I am consciousness into this world of form, this amazing world of form that is solid. But it's really like bringing what you can't see, bringing that amazing spirit into this world of form. And it really, there's an animation to everything when you really slow down and you focus on your breath and you're conscious of bringing these forward. So yeah, spirit, breath, and the body, they are one. They are a trinity of life.
Wow, it's powerful. Trinity of life. I that's what I was feeling. It's what animates us. It's
Yeah.
Think about when we first come into this world, what's the first thing that the doctors and everybody is looking for? It's for that baby to take their first breath of life. And when we transition out of this form, it's the last thing that we do, right? We take a last breath. And it's so amazing for me to have been in this journey like I have, and all of us, but to be reflective, to like look deeper into our lives of the things we take for granted. And I think breath is among them, right? It is such a vital life force. It's vital to that I am presence, which we can define, because some people listening may be saying, what's that? Right? But that part of us that is eternal, right? That's connected to our divinity, that's connected to infinite creation and creator source, or the living universe, or God, whatever language people use. The breath, I love how you talk about that. It is the bridge between the body and the spirit, right? And bringing this back into people's consciousness. So think about a time, anybody listening right now, where you've been triggered. It might be happening right now, and maybe that's why you're listening to this podcast. Maybe somebody at work is there's some dynamics, or there's just pressure mounting, or finances, or the pandemic that people have been going through. There's just any number of challenges in our lives. And when we feel compressed like that, right, sometimes our breath gets constricted. And that's exactly in those moments when we need to pause. And instead of continuing the pattern of breathing in a more shallow way, which facilitates and amplifies that feeling of stress, our body's in distress when we're not breathing deeply and calmly in this fluid way. So just by pausing and having a still point, having a moment with yourself where you just really allow yourself to feel that in-breath. And we'll talk about, because you really break it down to 3 parts of the breath. And maybe you want to take it from here, but I know it's the in-breath, the out-breath, and there's a still point in between. But I love how you bring it together, that it's all one. That's what you're saying. Mind, body, spirit, it's all one. And the in breath, the out breath, and the still point in between, it's also a very rich part of the oneness that this is. And I want to toss this back to you, but I just want to say, when people are in that constricted space, when they're compressed, when they feel they just had an argument with somebody, or there's a conflict, or they're worried about paying their bills at the end of the month, whatever is compressing in on their consciousness, it's amazing how that threefold breath that you describe, that trinity of the breath that is one, it can step us outside of linear time. It can step it, we can rise and breathe beyond anything that we're currently experiencing. And in that moment, when you're outside of time, you often can connect to this feeling of peace and presence that's not caught up in the stress. It's living beyond it. It sees a bigger picture on the situation, and you find you can relax into that beautiful place of grace. The breath can lead us into grace if we'll rise and allow it, if we'll open to receive that and consciously choose it in some way. So maybe you want to just talk about the in-breath, the out-breath, and the still point in between.
Yeah, I think you said a very key word. It's pause. That word really stuck out to me, as when you're in anxiety, when you may be in conflict, you're taking a pause, right? If you were to just step out of that for a second and just remember the fundamentals, remember what's truly important, really slow down. When you do that, you're connecting with the eternal aspect of you, what I call the eternal witness. It's the witnesser that is seeing the reality through your eyes. You're animated through the witnesser, which is the I am presence. And the I am presence, and in essence, is basically the consciousness of you that knows who you are, that knows the truth of your God connection, your eternal aspect. And the ego, on the other hand, is the consciousness that doesn't know who you are. It's forgotten who you are. It's in survival mode. It's doing everything it can to survive because it's trying to grasp at the physical reality, because that's all it knows. But when you take that pause, you connect with the eternal witness that is within you. And it is true. When you connect in this way and you become cognizant of the breath, the in-breath, the pause, the out-breath, you are slowing down, you're regaining your equilibrium, because you're bringing your attention back to the fundamentals. And the things that would cause you to be shaky or your heart to pound or sweat, these things don't bother you as much anymore. When you activate this presence within you, when you reconnect to the breath, these things just simply don't have the measure and the weight that they used to have in your life, which for me, that's true mastery of your being, of your environment. So I think it's very important, that word pause, and to go back to the three parts of the breath. The in breath, it's expansion. Your abdomen expands. You're bringing in this breath of life. You're bringing in the prana. There is a slight pause at the top where you're connecting your tongue to the roof of your mouth. So you're connecting your heart to your mind. It's very important to be cognizant of that. And that pause is really where you gain momentum, where you're hooking onto that presence within you, being aware of it and working in co-creation with it. And then your out breath is extension, right? You're extending this connection. You're bringing this connection through you as a bridge into this dimension. So I think it's super important, the breath, because especially if you're into the healing arts, if you do Reiki, if you do any sort of healing, massage therapy, acupuncture, you're working with your hands. But you could also be like massage therapists, they work with their breath as well too. It's not just all hands-on therapy. They're breathing this prana through, and they're bringing it through their hands. So it's fundamental to any healing technique, the breathing. And when you become really aware of the three parts, you're activating because you're connecting with the creator that you are.
It's so beautiful. I was feeling so many things, and it is through the breath that we allow ourselves to be, we can call it that conduit of grace. We give ourselves that place of peace inside ourselves where we weren't just feeling that just moments ago. I can't tell you the amount of times where just taking a single breath, also that pause helps us not say the things that our ego that's fight or flight oriented, right, is ready to fire off saying something that our I am presence would probably not want to say, right? It gives us that pause where we can be more of a conscious creator, more of the gifts and that peaceful presence inside ourselves can come through, even though just moments ago we were completely triggered or stressed or overwhelmed or what that might be. And if people learned this one single fundamental concept, but it's more than a concept, what we're talking about with the breathing, it is a living consciousness. It's an energy, and it's a tool we use to be our better selves in our lives. It is amazing the difference that a conscious breath can make in how we show up, how we respond. Really the difference between reacting to something and always feeling like we're having to put out fires in a way in our lives, and responding from a more consciously creative way. And I know that the breath is a deep part of us feeling grounded in uncertain times, right? Grounded in the overwhelm. And it makes me think about when we talk about the in-breath, which you describe in many ways as expansion, and then the out-breath as, what was the word that you used?
Extension.
Extension, right? Extending more of our gifts and our presence in the world. That's when we can be this conscious conduit. We're breathing peace. We're breathing balance back into this world. We can be those conduits if we'll do this work. I wondered if also what's inside your awareness to describe that in-between place. Is that a place of neutrality, the place in between the breaths? If you had to give it a consciousness, what word would you put to that in-between place or description?
0 point energy. Zero point. It's a place, it's a stillness within that is outside of the bounds of time, that is eternal. And I would say that still place, because you were speaking about this just is coming to me now. When you come in, the baby takes his first breath. When you leave this world, you exhale your last breath, right? So that in between space, that 0 point, that's pure potentiality. That's pure God consciousness. And that's an amazing place. And when you use the techniques in the book, and when you use the breathing techniques, and you bring in this breath, and you stop at that still point, and say you have a word in your mind, you have an affirmation, you have a color you're working with. I work with the flames of creation when I do my healing and when I do my daily meditations, because they are this eternal, beautiful energy that are gifts from God. So when you connect in that's the momentum, it's that still point, and you're using all these different techniques, and you're right in that still point. This is where you can really become the conscious creator of your reality and bring in what you desire.
That place of like divine potentiality, right? It's that place where anything is possible, right? That there are no limits. And so, and I felt, even when you were talking about the breath when we're born and the last breath we take, our whole life in physical form is meant to be lived if we can find this place inside ourselves in the 0 point frequency, where it's the point of potentiality, of divine potentiality, and expressing that in all ways. And I think in many ways, when people don't have these tools, they don't have this language, they don't have this awareness, they feel constricted. They don't feel like they have tools. They don't feel like anything is possible, and that they have these gifts that can come through. And in a way, when we constrict our breathing, we limit its ability to come through, right? We limit this ability for this grace to express through us. But I think that's where it's that sweet spot in many ways. It's that place where athletes find right before they make the swish shot, right? Or just, I know when I've been writing and it's like the downloads are just coming and coming and coming. It's just in this, you're in the zone, you're in this beautiful space where we're channeling in a way the non-physical into the physical world, where like this higher insights and these deeper solutions and these amazing inspirations that live beyond this world, they come through this world when we make the time to have this breath. When we talk about this, there's three aspects to the breathing, but they are distinct phases, I guess, right? There's the rising of the in breath, and there's the release of the out breath, and there's that pregnant, that rich place in between that's full of nutrients and nourishment. And that's the special part that I think all of it, it's one synergistic trinity. I think you used the word, right? Yep. One experience of our wholeness. And I don't know how many breaths we take. I think we might have talked about that. I think it's a fascinating concept, but think about how many opportunities we have in a day, because we're all breathing. And we don't have to be conscious of this for, I don't know, say it's 30,000 breaths, or I don't know what it is, how many breaths we take a day. But imagine if we just made 10 of them conscious.
It creates a flow. It creates a momentum. Especially if you start your day off with a practice like the one breath practice, and you're tapped into the potentiality of your breath, you create this flow which you carry with you throughout your day. You're more intentional. You're in a grounded state of being. You're in a state of equilibrium, where if somebody says something that may be off-putting, you're not flying off the rails. You're just, you just keep going. You acknowledge what's being done, but you're like surfing this wave, and you're more aware of everything that's going on around you. It's a heightened, expansive way of walking this life.
It's so true. And when you're in that flow and you are kind of surfing, I often reference Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's this animated cartoon series. I think you know it as well. And the main character, who's the avatar in that show, he happens to be an airbender. And so he is a really good depiction of that, just in the flow. He surfs air, basically, right? And I think that doesn't mean being ungrounded, but I think many times people feel so trapped in their lives, and especially when a sense of global overwhelm, which I think could characterize this last couple of years we've all been living through. People who are not surfing like that airbender, who aren't breathing consciously in this way, could continue to look back at the challenges and the pain and suffering of this physical world, instead of being a surfer in it, but not being of it, right? So that we can move freely within, and we can create positive change, and we can be a light here. We can be channeling our gifts into this realm, instead of being somebody who participates in the complaining and the challenges, and identifying, I guess, with the pain that many people are going through. When you are breathing in the way that we're describing, even just paying in with like 5 conscious breaths, or taking 5 minutes a day, right? A lot of people think that being conscious like this can take hours and hours of spiritual practice. It is actually very simple. And when I started my journey, it literally was just minutes a day, because that's all I had to myself with young children at home. So I love how the divine design, it's actually designed to be very simple. It's designed to be very accessible and very flowful and fluid. It's the ego, because it's it's not connected to this bigger I am presence. It kind of lives unto itself, and it's like this protector with like battle armor, and it's ready to go do battle with anything it perceives as a threat. So it will even call in conflicts that aren't even there sometimes, just because it's so ready. When our hearts are open and we're living in this flowful place, and we get to that flowful place, it starts with our breathing, just changing our breathing a little bit and connecting with that I am presence that knows that everything is okay. It knows who we are beyond this physical form. It knows our infinite, eternal essence and our ability to transcend anything that is less than like the joy and the peace that we all do want in our lives. That breath helps the ego breathe through its panic that it's having. And the ego, I find, even though it might resist, because if this is new to you, it might resist and say, oh, I don't think breath is going to help this, right? Like, I just lost my job. How's the breath going to be helping me with that? Oh, it should be our first go-to tool. It's our first nature, but it's been a forgotten first nature. And it's amazing what I do see is when I also remember the breath, if I'm stressed, how quickly the ego relaxes. Over time, it learns, it may not like it, but it learns like help is here, right? The ego feels less alone when we breathe this way, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, yeah, it's a nourishment for the ego, because the ego is not your enemy. The ego is a part of you that is serving a purpose. It's serving a survival mechanism in a world that we need it, right? So the ego is definitely not something to be, shunned upon. It's definitely something that maybe would sit in the back seat, and and then you take the front seat, and you know that it's there, right? But
Right.
it's not driving your car. It's not driving your whole experience. But there may be a situation where that aspect of you needs to jump in. There may be a situation that could be detrimental to your life, that you may need that part of you. So I
Mm.
think it's also very important.
Yeah, to value both. It's
Yeah.
and this, you started this early on in the conversation, which was the mind and the heart connecting. And when we breathe, and we breathe by putting our tongue in the roof of our mouth, we're, again, there's a lot of bridge work in these times, isn't it? We're bridging things that haven't been connected for a long time. It used to be automatic in previous, like more ancient times, but we've gotten so modernized. While we've advanced in many ways, we've also regressed in many ways, and we've forgotten the basics of living as a whole being, as mind, body, spirit, and form. And here we are in mind, body, spirit, fitness, I might say. So that tongue on the roof of our mouth that forms that bridge between our hearts and our minds, and our bodies and our spirit, that is, I believe, when the ego can relax a little bit more, and it can become a more valued part of ourselves, because I think it is the part of us that takes action. It is the part of us that is meant, it's designed in the deeper design, and a lot of people don't know this, but it's the heart that was always designed to give the instructions to a receptive mind, who would then implement those instructions into the physical world, but being guided fully from the heart, from our I am presence, from that higher consciousness and that state of flow and presence. And when that got severed somewhere along our evolutionary path as human beings, right, in physical form, we are now, a lot of this timeline in the world is a reconnection. It's a reunion time. And so this is a foreign language for people just discovering that there's value in the breath beyond just you have to breathe to live, right? A lot of people know that, but they don't really know the multi-layered, and I would even say multi-dimensional impact of this breathing in this conscious way. And kind of, for some people, they could understand, oh, well, even if I don't feel what they're saying exactly yet, right, that they can understand that the mechanics of, if I want to be more unified inside myself, if I want my heart giving instructions to my ego and them communicating together, then if it's that easy, I can breathe with the tongue on the roof of my mouth, and I can allow myself to be this bridge, and I can practice this unified communication. And I think what you said was so profound, because a lot of times the ego is when people are awakening, it is spoken about as the part of us that has derailed us, or that gets us into conflicts and challenges and panics and is always fighting wars, the wrestling inside ourselves. But the reason the ego is so overworked is that it's not getting its divine instructions, right? So it is always kind of floundering, trying to stay one step ahead of the next fire it feels like it has to put out. And it's like trying to empower like a kindergartner inside ourselves, or at least middle school or something, when really it needs that like all-knowing parent, which is our heart center. And when our heart is communicating with our mind, with the ego, and the breath is the connector, I think we're going to see a whole different side of our egos than humanity has seen in a long time, once more of us begin to value this again, right? It's very powerful to bring this consciousness. The ego is just not getting what it needs. So it acts out a lot of times trying to preserve us and keep us safe in a physical body. But it really is looking for that help. And that's what I feel, is that if we can breathe in this way and the heart is connecting, while at first it resists what it doesn't know, eventually the ego does sit in the back seat and it does listen for those instructions. And then they're working, the front seat and the back seat are working together. And now you're the driver of your vehicle, right? You've got all the pieces right there, right?
Yeah, and I think the ego gives us these nudges. If the ego's in the back seat, it's tapping on our shoulder, like remember this, remember that. Because when we step out of the presence, right, it's something where we're in a reactionary state of mind. That the ego is reactionary. It is very action oriented because it is in a survival mode. It's trying to survive to keep your physical form alive. But it's reaction as opposed to your I am presence that acts from a state of knowing, acts from a state of the larger perspective, the larger bird's eye view, knows your path of life, your path of initiations through life. The ego is a very narrow-minded, narrow frame of looking at reality. And I think if we bridge the two together, that's where you embody your fullness, right? It's a fullness of the totality of who you are. And we speak about being multidimensional beings, and I hear this all the time. People say you're a multidimensional being. Well, what does that mean? It means you're existing simultaneously in multi-dimensional realms. You're more than, I'm more than Jonathan,
right?
And then it's probably way more than we could even wrap our heads around. And it's not, I don't think it's for the mind to know. It's for the heart to know. But yeah, that going back to the bridge, it's one, this is your core. Your heart is your core. 1, 2, your tongue. 3, your mind. So there's that trinity. 1, 2, 3. That trinity, that bridge. Because when you're born, your heart is the first thing that's formed. Secondly, your tongue forms from your heart. Your tongue is a part of your heart, which if you really just stop and think about that, you just meditate on that daily, that your tongue is a part of your heart, that you should be speaking, everything you should be speaking should be from the heart.
Wow.
And when you connect, the 1, 2, 3, when you connect the heart with the mind, you are reassuring the ego. It's okay. We can take a breath here. We can relax, right? There's not an immediate pressing issue right now. We can take a breath from this conflict. We could take a breath from this anxiety. And when you can do that daily, when you can remember to do that, I would recommend starting your day like that, because it just creates a momentum. right? You're doing this daily, you're creating a practice, and then you're carrying it with you through your day. Every day you do that, every day you work with your breath, you're expanding your field, right? There's these things that we can't see if we're not seeing in a multidimensional way. If we're just looking at the 3D world, you'd be like, a field? Is that the field I see over there where there's
like the
something
meadow?
growing? Yeah. No, there is a multidimensional grid, a blueprint, a field of energy around everybody. And we are all interacting through this field of consciousness. And when you become a conscious creator with your breath and you work with these creationary tools that I give in my book, Pyramid of Presence, you expand your field. And there is where there's unlimited potentiality to bring in, people into your experience. You're going to bring in experiences that you're calling for. They're more expanded experiences, whether you're looking for abundance, you're just looking for peace, friendship. Your field is the determining factor of how you experience your reality. And the breath, it just enlarges, it expands this field.
What you just did, we both know this, and it's the torus, it's this toroidal field that is like this in-breath. If we are physically breathing an in-breath and an out-breath, that toroidal field, it's like jellyfish kind of move in the ocean like this, right? They take that in-breath, you can see them. And the toroidal field is kind of like a donut, but that same fluid motion. It's expansion, and
it's an ebb and a flow. The ocean, the ebb and the flow, the cycles of the tides. It's also, you can relate this expansion and contraction, this out and in. We could look at that as light and shadow, and to embrace all of it, the totality of shadow and light. Because the darkness of this planet, when we have, I'm talking about like dark when the sun is, when the earth is dark,
right,
literally, right, at night. So it's really this ebb and flow of the tides, the ebb and flow of your experience, right? To embrace the shadow as well as the light. And I think that's where a lot of people sort of, it's to avoid the shadow instead of embracing it, because it can be uncomfortable. But this is where the true nectar and your true expansion comes from, is by bringing up this shadow. And the breath is a proponent to do that.
It is. It's something that we actually have inside us that is designed to help transmute those shadow aspects of ourselves, that we're here with the ego presence inside of ourselves as well, that we're for some of the lessons we needed to learn. I mean, it's always important to remember. And again, if we bring it back into the context of the rising hero's journey, right? We're not here to just breathe and do nothing. You know what I mean? We're here to have lessons. We're here to have experiences, and we're here to expand. And so just as much as we can summon in through the breath and through our heart and through our electromagnetic field and this toroidal field, we summon in experiences that some are fabulous and fun, and some are painful and challenging. And if we are multidimensional, a lot of us who journey into this deeper awakening see that we've lived multiple lives. That's not everybody's belief system, but we've journeyed into these places. We crave experiences. And the beautiful thing is we're wired to be a summoner of those experiences and a transcender of those experiences, right? We can transform anything that's less than the more integrated light. So to recap, I think it's really important that to bring this message to ourselves, because you and I learn in every single podcast together too, and also for those listening to what we're sharing, is that we are wired to be these transmuters, these transfigurers, right? These transformers of shadow and these integrators of our experiences. But too often, because of that ego, and the ego often is in that fear place, right? That reactionary space, when it sees shadow or it sees anything that's unpleasant, it wants to shut it down. It wants to deny it, avoid it, turn away from it, eradicate it, whatever, attack it. That's kind of the ego's orientation. And if the heart can be saying, we know how to transform this. This is an experience. It doesn't have to stay in our experience. If you just listen, follow my voice, right? Listen, I'll give you the instructions you need and everything is going to be okay. Kind of like you see any good parent is reassuring their children who are having new experiences, who might be worried about something. But the parent who's lived a little longer knows that this too is going to be okay. It's kind of that voice that we're giving this to our ego to say we're supposed to be having experiences. We don't want to be afraid of the experience of life. We're not here to be afraid of light and shadow. We're here to witness it, possibly choose it, experience it, and transmute it and transform it if we need to, right? And that the wholeness of that whole package brings us back into the light that we are. And people who go on this hero's journey, we can say they go on a spiritual journey, that go on an awakening journey. We're also remembering that this is why we came, right? And that's also the point that I think I was trying to make, is that we didn't come to have no experiences. No, we came to expand through experiences. And that's also something that I find, and I think you would probably find with your clients and people you interact with. It's amazing how humanity doesn't know this, right? If we live our lives strictly from ego lenses of just putting out fires and reaching goals and trying to avoid pain and try to have some joy, we don't understand that we're here for all of it. And then we have the skills for all of it. And the breath is a foundation to engage with all of it. So if something is less than pleasant in your life, or something you actually don't want to be experiencing, remember the heart is in the front seat of your car. That is what can drive and create your experience. And if your heart's not connected through the tongue on the roof of your mouth in this bridge with your ego and your mind, then your mind is the only thing that's left to perceive all of the experiences you're having. And then shadow is scary. Uncertainty is very scary. It's very threatening to know. The ego knows it does not have the skills. It does not have the skills. So it is left to, with its tools and its resources, to create sweat, to give you some anxiety, to tap you on the shoulder to say, this is not okay, right? Whether it's trying to get you to retreat, quit, run, deny, avoid, attack, whatever it's trying to do, it's going to use its tools or even its arsenal of weaponry if it has to, because it sees its role as keeping our physicality alive. And when it's not receiving the instructions, it has to use the resources it has. And I think when people are experiencing stress and overwhelm and uncertainty in their lives, it's because they don't know that they have this whole other skill set that's in fact designed to communicate with their ego, so they are working in harmony. And then the ego can be actually a friend, because it is our action center of our lives. And when I speak this way, because we all can get frustrated with, like, why did I do that? Why, we can, kind of look back at things and say, oh, I can't believe I responded or I reacted that way. It's just because in that moment, we weren't conscious of being this bridge, and we weren't facilitating that connection. And so out came through our tongue. You said that our heart forms our tongue, right? When we're in utero. But without this conscious connection, the ego is feeding the tongue's words, right? It's going to lash out because that's the only thing that it knows to do in that moment. And then we can have some compassion, I guess, is what I'm saying also for all of us. Compassion for the ego that feels so alone a lot of the time. And even compassion for the patience of this wise, all-knowing heart that we have, that is so often underutilized because most human beings don't know its power. and the
Yeah.
consciousness that it holds for us. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think compassion and forgiveness, because you only know what you know in any moment. Depending on your state of consciousness, you know what you know then and there. That's it, right? So if you feel like you made a mistake in the past, there really are no mistakes. If you look at the grander picture of it, it's just another opportunity um, to bring resolution
Mm.
to an energy which desires to be reassured and to have resolution, so that you could step into embodying more of the light that you are. And when you work on healing the shadow, when you work on releasing and bringing resolution, it gives you more of a freedom in your life. It gives you more, you can feel the light more around you. You can move with the flow more, because you trust and you know that you've addressed things that would keep you in a stagnant, or would keep you in a certain pattern. We look at these energetic patterns that desire resolution, that they bring you around in these loops, and they if they don't get the desired resolution in full, they're going to come back again. So you're going to have another opportunity. If you didn't respond the way that you really know you could to a situation, you bet there's going to be another opportunity. And it may be a little louder the next time, but it's to be prepared for these opportunities. So you being aware of, hey, I didn't respond in my most optimal way. I don't like how I don't like how this situation resolved. Right? Now you're being conscious. You're taking that step back to that eternal witness that we spoke about earlier. You're saying, I have another opportunity in the future, when it may be with a different person. It may not even be in this lifetime. It may be in a different lifetime. But I can be in anticipation that it's going to come back around, and I'm going to have another opportunity.
Mm.
And how am I going to respond next time? Prepare. It's about being prepared for these cycles that come for resolution. Resolution for you to step into your full ascension and transcend the limitations that we have placed on ourselves, transcend the limitations of the ego, which was survival.
Mm.
To go from survival to, allness, to awaken to who you are. And when you consciously work with the shadow and you clear away these layers little by little, because we want to do it in a way that's not going to be jarring. We do it little by little. We take time to integrate, do a healing session, make sure to drink a lot of water after, make sure to take time to rest. I always say that to people. It's about integration of the energy as well. But the more we consciously clear the shadow, the more we learn about ourselves, the more we're able to learn who we are. We may remember aspects of ourselves from a past life, or we maybe get this word or this name, and you just feel the knowingness all over your body. Like you get the hair stands up, you get the tingles. You look for these cues along the way that are indicative of something being spoken as truth or of falsity. And when you align more with the cues, and you know that this is true because of the way that I feel when this, say, a word comes in or a name comes in, or you just get this knowing, like, oh, this is profound. This is something I didn't know before. It happens after you clear these layers. And then we identify more with these aspects that bring the expansion. And we walk with these aspects of who we are, more of the truth of who we are. And that's how you're able to expand as a human being, and I believe we are divine beings, and we're also divine becoming. It's a great paradox. We're becoming divine, but we're already divine. It's a little tricky to wrap the ego mind around that one, but
Mm,
simultaneously being and becoming at the same time, which
right.
is a quantum energy, which is outside of the linear thinking of time or space, because that one's tough for the mind not connected with the heart.
It is tough for the one with the mind not connected with the heart, because it is in that place that we can understand that we are infinitely, eternally expanding our beingness, the essence of who we are, right? And so when you see it through the heart's lens, you can see those are two aspects of the same one, the being and the becoming. But when you're only in linear time, where one thing has to precede another thing, because that's the way linear time works, there's a before and an after, right? In the eternal beingness, many things are happening simultaneously, and not everybody listening to this will yet understand that. But the deeper you go into the journey, the more experiences that you have. I when you were talking too about the heart and the mind, and you were talking about the knowingness that fills us when we go on this journey and we allow these experiences, the knowingness that comes from the heart, it really does come from the inside out. And the mind operates from all the input it gets from the outside, and it gets all of its cues from the outside in. And that's where we've been in an upside down world, even inside ourselves, in our very own consciousness. And you and I both know it can feel a bit unsettling or uncomfortable when you start to have some of that, what I would call spiritual vertigo, which I think the events on our world this past year has caused at least some reevaluation for people, right? Some reassessment of their life and their value system and their fears and their triggers and all of these things. And if you can go a step further than just witnessing those things, but you go deeper into feeling a deeper part of yourself that wants to guide your life now, because that's this turning right side up process. It can be unsettling because you feel like the structures and things that held you upright in your belief systems and all the things you're attached to, what if they're not exactly what you thought they are? And if the heart is meant to lead your life and your mind is meant to take the instructions, it's not the dictator of your life dictating to all the other organs and parts of you. It's actually the opposite. It's meant to be the biggest receiver. It is meant to be the biggest receiver of these more all-knowing cues. And then it's the implementer of those incredible, higher consciousness instructions. But when we're upside down, I think that's when we feel smaller, more constricted, more trapped, more stressed, more triggered. And then I just wanted to add into this right now is that then that toroidal field, that energy that breathes with us, that's part of this unseen energetic field around us, like a jellyfish. I don't know if that's how I don't know why that image is coming, but if that's how they suck up their food up inside themselves, but literally that toroidal field is vacuuming in our experiences. So when we're operating from the mind alone and the ego alone, and we're pumping, we've got this pump going, that's our heart, and you've got this toroidal field, it is vacuuming into your experience that which your energy is. So when you're in more fear, you vacuum in more fear. And when you're in higher feelings like joy and love and appreciation and gratitude, or even just openness to see new things and to learn more about yourself, and to, just kind of check in with the congruence of your belief systems with how you feel inside, then that shifts and you're manifesting more good people. Just somebody at the store is randomly nice to you, or somebody's like, I love the shirt you're wearing, or just in traffic, somebody is so nice and they pause, they see that you're trying to get in the next lane, instead of like cutting you off, all of a sudden they open, and they didn't have to. It seemed like this random act of kindness that found you. Why? Because you opened to some degree into what's true, and you vibrated that, and then that pulsing, that electromagnetic field, you participated in the co-creation of that opening in your external life, where you got the spot in traffic and you could switch lanes. And it's so important for us, that for people who feel trapped, we all have challenges. That when you and I are podcasting like this, just so our audience knows, it doesn't mean that we don't have challenges come up in our day, that we don't have triggers. We are all living on planet Earth, which means we're all going through something. No one's immune. No one's immune. But when we walk with these tools, and we have just so many beautiful things that you share in your book, Jonathan. Again, I just want to show it. We'll talk about where people can find you on your website towards the end here in a few minutes. But this is his book. There's so many beautiful and rich tools that you break things down, that they're just these like bite-sized morsels, and really little doses of higher ways to integrate and move in your life just slightly differently than you would if you were acting from your ego alone, right? And it's so accessible. That's what I find in the information that you shared from your own journey. You put all those wisdoms that you were collecting as you were going through a lot of this process, and you've put them together in this pyramid of presence, which is so beautiful. It's an amazing resource and tool for people. And maybe the last thing I wanted to bring in today, just kind of to round up this conversation, because I think the breath and our presence and our consciousness and this kind of electromagnetic field, this toroidal presence inside us, the I am consciousness, and then of course the ego that's also with us, that witness observer, we've talked about that today. We've talked about it before. I know we'll talk about it again because it's vital. It is that I am presence. It's the higher energies and aspects of us. You have in your book, I just wanted to read this. It's kind of a prayer. It's an affirmation. It's an intention, however anybody receives that. But I just wanted to read this because it was really beautiful. And I think many people could really bathe in this if they're feeling some stress. And you titled it The Eternal Witness. I am the eternal witness. I am the formless, forever in co-creation. With the Most High Father, Mother God, I am the witnesser. I witness suffering, yet I am not that. I witness fear, yet I am not that. I witness death, yet I am not that. I am love and only love. Whatever may occur, I am not that. Whatever may be said, I am not that. Whatever I may think, I am not that. I am love and only love. It is so beautiful. It's like those are the words, or some words, that can express that I am presence, that bigger soul presence inside us that is nourished by our breathing, that trinity, that union inside us. And I want to thank you for that gift. And that's just one beautiful expression of soul that's in your book that people can tap into.
Absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that. That's one that's really, really dear to my heart. And it definitely, for me, allowed me to define in words what the I am is and what you are not, right? So you are not your circumstances. You are not your experience. You're the witnesser of those experiences. They're beautiful, but I believe it's taking that pause, taking that step and witnessing from a different perspective. And these are ways that spirit communicated with me when I asked for clarity, or I asked certain questions that really helped to clarify what I was experiencing.
And you did it so beautifully, and you were gifted these insights so beautifully. And the way we tap into these things, like how you received many of the guidances and the downloads and the beautiful energies that you paint in your book here onto the canvas of the page that people can really experience, that opens to all of us when we open. And that's why I think certainly here at Whole Soul School and Foundation, this Mind, Body, Spirit Fitness series, we want to be messengers of that opening process, that expanding process. And because that is so much a part of what we can call the rising hero's journey. I'm borrowing from Paul Panzica's language. He's another one who podcasts for the foundation and also for Whole Soul Mastery, a lot of the podcasts there. he shared about the heroic soul. And so the rising hero's journey, I think in many ways is Joseph Campbell's language, and we're extending that and expanding on that here at Whole Soul School and Foundation. And that might be a way that people identify with their human selves as a hero rising in that journey to be the best that they can be. But when you really combine the rising hero's journey, that energy, with the heroic soul's journey, now, see, to me, now I think we're really cooking, because when you have the human and the divine, when you have the 3D and the 5D version, right? When you have the mind and the heart expressing as one in this journey, and learning how to do that dance. I mean, a dance is that graceful flow when we get coordinated with ourselves. We're just a bit discoordinated, that's all. You know, it's like our ego mind is beating out of rhythm with our heart center, or it isn't connected at all. But when we just have the intention and we open to these things, beautiful books like these get born, like beautiful songs and innovations, all kinds of things come through when we connect in this deeper way. But when we're shut off and shut down and disconnected, then I do think our ego probably legitimately feels like it has to fight its way through life, right? And then you're not in this energy of grace and this flow, you're in the struggle, right? And then a living universe that responds to our energy and our vibrations hears that we're fighting vines that are wrapped around our arms, and we're tethered and tied and blocked, and we just can't be free to be who we are. The living universe hears that and says, oh, there's a desire to create, not being free. Let me help you with that. And then you summon into your experiences more mirrors and more lessons that show you just how not free you are. And not free is probably at least one of the antithesis that could be for the I am presence, because the I am presence is that infinite eternal witness and that infinite eternal presence inside us that knows there really is perfection happening all the time.
Yeah, yeah, and they speak two very different languages, and in my book, I definitely lay that out in a section. I give an example of how the ego would speak and how the I am presence would speak, and
Wow.
you can say these words out loud, and you can feel the expansion that comes about from speaking the I am presence's language, and the constriction which comes about speaking the ego's language. So it's about feeling these vibrations, these emotions, and then aligning, taking the opportunity, taking the conscious decision to align with the one that you know expands you.
Right, exactly. And the more we are, I think that learning process, that kind of earth school that we're in, is in a phase of accelerating. So our vibrational choices are being mirrored to us quicker, in quicker cycles of time, because I think this is also the earth and the universe cueing us that a big leap in consciousness is happening. And we may not have 100 years to, experience one thing anymore, right? Our choices are coming back around quicker and quicker to say, the universe is saying, did you like how you created that before? Because if not, here's another one, right? And here's another one. And when you can see them coming back around for you again, like these echoes of those cycles, if you like what you chose, it's going to feel fabulous. You're going to feel fabulous the first time you do it. You're going to feel great the next time you do it. You're going to feel peaceful and balanced. And you're going to say, oh, this is my I am presence mirroring to me itself. But if we're not in the experience of that and something's uncomfortable and we have the cycle after cycle, the ego might have us go into hopelessness. But if you understand that this is part of the hero's journey, if you understand this is part of what the heroic soul must journey now, then you recognize the signs, you're looking for them. You're looking for those cycles repeating, and you're looking for these opportunities to create differently than perhaps what you might have done a day ago or a week ago now, or lifetimes ago even. But I think we're being given ample opportunity to make different choices so we come in this greater alignment. And let's just, as we round this out, one of the beautiful ways that you have so incredibly articulated how when you take an in-breath in, and we might want to finish with that, it's just we take a conscious in-breath in, and we place our tongue on the roof of our mouth, just like you have so brilliantly guided us to, which the tongue is already connected with the heart and the heart center. It was born from that. And you take that nice in-breath in, and you're open. You can add a color in that breath if you want. And you're feeling that expansion, and you're stepping outside of linear time for just this moment with Jonathan and I today. And you're not that, whatever your circumstance is right now that's creating stress or uncertainty or worry or fear, whatever those things might be. When you take this breath with us right now, you are not those things. You are the soul presence, that eternal, infinite presence, witnessing that aspect of you, having that experience. And when you feel that peace and that still point while you're still holding that in breath, that's your point of divine potentiality that is transmuting the experience that you may not want to be having, that you are witnessing. And when you can enter that place of peace inside yourself willingly, because that's your natural organic state, you can be a conscious creator that extends that peace through your physical vessel and ripples that peace and presence and balance into your world, even though the physical parts of you moments before didn't feel peaceful and balanced. And even if you can't access that feeling of peace and balance right now because the triggers you have are so overwhelming while you're breathing like this, then just allow yourself the possibility that it's possible you could begin to access this place of peace and presence if you just consciously breathe enough in this way and let yourself release and be liberated from the confines of linear time for just a couple of breaths here. And you might begin to see your situation with a slightly different perception, more compassionately, more capably, more confidently. And this is that breath that Jonathan and I know the two of us as messengers of this, in this podcast, in this awareness of mind, body, and spirit, fitness and wholeness, want to seed in your conscious awareness in these times in 2021 that is a timeless essence that is returning to us. And I just want to add those cycles that we talk about that might be shadow cycles returning to us for transmutation and transformation. These cycles of goodness and wholeness are also returning to us because that's our nature. And the breath helps us regain, reorient, and reset into our divine nature. And one breath like this can do all of that if you're willing to take the steps and just practice and allow it to be. And so I want to thank you, Jonathan, and I want to thank our listeners. That was powerful.
It was beautifully said there at the end. It was very powerful, and that it is highly possible and highly probable when you start breathing in this way that your life will shift.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And you move quickly from being, a breath before you felt hopeless and a breath after you feel really capable and hopeful that change is on its way. And you're the conscious creator of that change, or at least a participant in that. Maybe for some people, that's just the beginning, that they're a participant in creating this better energy and this change in their lives. And I think a lot of people need these messages right now. And it starts with the simple connection with the breath and all that we're talking about. So Jonathan, thank you. Thank you for creating and listening to your guidance system to create this tool, this resource. It's amazing. It really is chock full of beautiful, beautiful energies that people can tap into. And you don't have to read the whole book to get the essence. You can just open to different parts, right? And you can extract some things that you need. And it's also something that if you do walk with it, it can help you walk out of this place of more ego-filled living into a much more integrated trinity inside yourself of wholeness, which was a lot of what you experienced in your own journey that you're now sharing with us.
Yes, and it's a progression. It's a slow progression. You want to take your time. You want to integrate what's coming up. You want to not read the book front to back in one day. It's definitely something to take it slow. And if you need guidance, I'm here. You can reach out to me at jwalchemical@gmail.com. You
Okay.
can go on my website, alchemicalaccelerations.com. That's my wife's and I website, Crystal and myself. We also offer Reiki healing, fast system healing. We just did a combined Reiki and fast system healing for somebody that was so transformational and so beautiful. If you feel called to that, please reach out to me. It's something that if you're ready for, you'll know. And just give me a shout.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, thank you for the work that you do and for the presence that you both bring to your work and for the presence you bring to these podcasts. And I want to thank our listeners for joining us and for walking and feeling and breathing this energy with us. And the more of us that awaken to the power we have inside, the beautiful power we have to create a much better, brighter, more unified world that to the ego seems an impossibility today, but to the heart knows that that's the way it's meant to be. That is the design. And many of us are conduits and facilitators of bringing that about on the planet in these times, in this time of great change. And so I invite you to visit us on our website at wholesoulschoolandfoundation.org and to find us on your favorite social media platforms. We post inspiring social media posts with quotes that are themes of things we're working with as a collective here at the team of Whole Soul School and Foundation. We just have beautiful writers and people sharing, and it's only expanding, right? Whole Soul School and Foundation is just beginning to seed a lot of these messages in humanity's consciousness, and we intend to be here for the long haul to continue to share more of these positive messages for people all over the world who are experiencing great change and who are trying to get in greater alignment with their rising hero's journey and the heroic soul within. So we'll see you next time. Blessings, everyone.
Blessings. Namaste.
Namaste.